I'm Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So, Democrats are threatening a government shutdown. My, how times have changed. Look, they're using the tools at their disposal to do whatever they're trying to do. It's inconsistent. I mean, I'm not necessarily against it. I don't necessarily know how I feel about it quite yet, but some of the cabinet appointments were grotesque. It's like, why are you threatening the government shutdown now, but you let some of those guys, or you voted for some of these guys? That's all I'm saying. A group of prominent Senate Democrats on Monday raised the specter of a shutdown over the funding of Donald Trump's proposed wall along the border with Mexico. They also signaled a series of protracted budget battles in Congress over the larger force of immigration officers, what they call the deportation force, and funding for Planned Parenthood. They warned that these would be poison pills that could kill any potential deals to keep the government running normally this year. In a letter to Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer and four of the Democratic leaders made clear how far they're prepared to go. We believe it will be inappropriate to insist on the inclusion of such funding in a must-pass appropriations bill that is needed for the Republican majority in Congress, in control of Congress, to avert a government shutdown so early in President Trump's administration. Democrats have said little up to now about the possibility of employing the brinksmanship that Republicans used to fight over the budget battles and debt ceiling during the Obama administration. But Mr. Trump expected to formally outline his 2018 budget priorities for the first time on Thursday, and an April 28 deadline looming to fund the government for the rest of the fiscal year. The stakes of failing to reach an agreement are ratcheted up even higher. I gotta be honest, the plans that Trump are doing are ridiculous, if we're being honest. The wall thing is absurd. It's just a waste of money. They already have borders. I mean, they already have walls over there. And Trump never really paid attention to the problem of not being able to see through his big, beautiful wall. Part of the agents, they've made the point of saying, look, a fence is better because you can actually see through a fence and see who's on the other side of that fence. There is a part of this that's fascinating to me, though. He's trying to keep his campaign promises, as ghastly as they are. He's trying to keep them. So he says he's going to build a wall. In his mind, okay, I'm going to build that wall. I told the people I'm going to do it. That's what I'm going to do. At the very least, I'm going to try to do it. I'm going to kick Muslims out of the country. I'm going to have a Muslim ban. Yes, he's going to try to do a Muslim ban. I mean, for the most part, say what you will about him. As grotesque as what he's doing is, he is keeping his promises, or trying to. So Trump still insists that Mexico will pay for that wall. Mexico is not paying for that wall. And this is the interesting part. Last month, the Trump administration indicated that it would increase military spending by $54 billion while cutting non-military spending by the same amount. The plan deeply slashes money for the State Department, Foreign Aid, Internal Revenue Service, and National Endowments of the Arts. A draft budget request that surfaced last week also shown the Trump administration was considering making cuts to the Coast Guard, what? The Transportation Security Administration, and Federal Emergency Management Agency. Much of those fundings will go towards paying for the wall. Now, you have to understand why he's doing that. So, in the same way that he's taken down the EPA, of course he's going to take down the revenue, IRS. The IRS essentially is funding for taxes. The people who are paying him, the people who employ the Republican Party for the most part, and to be honest, the Democrat Party don't like taxes. It eats into their profits. They don't like giving that money to, help with healthcare or help with school or help with whatever. They don't like it. They pay those guys specifically to drive down their taxes. Trump is doing what he's paid to do. Mr. Schumer said that he would not rule out approving funding for a wall in 2018, but that Mr. Trump must first explain how he plans to use the eminent domain to acquire land along the border, the effects of the construction to Native Americans, and how he plans to persuade Mexico to reimburse the United States for the costs. In the meantime, Mr. Schumer rejected the idea that Democrats were being hypocritical for attempting to shut down the government, and it was up to the Republicans to keep the government open. The onus for shutting down government falls on the governing party, which is them, he said in an interview. They have to face down some of the ideologies in their caucus, and on things like the wall, face down the president. Alright, but is that true? I mean, I understand why Schumer is saying that the onus is on the party that's in power. That's not really true, though. I kind of disagree with him. Obama was running his particular agenda, and if we're being honest, Obama had somewhat of a right-wing agenda. They still was against it. They weren't against it for policy reasons. They weren't against it because they were completely that disapproving of what he was doing. It was Obama. They were supposed to be reflexively against any and everything that he did. That's part of the reasons why Republicans look so crazy. Like during his term, Obama was doing right-wing stuff. Like, it's one thing if he came in and he was a leftist. Let's say he came in and he actually was the progressive that he pretended he was. Well, they're rejecting him or reflexively going after him at that point. Looks more sane in that case. Because for the most part, he's to the left. They're going to be to the right. They don't necessarily need to be sharply off the spectrum. For the most part, they could be somewhat to the right and still oppose his agenda. But Obama started on their 40-yard line, which means that they scooted back further down to the 100-yard line. It's just the way the dynamic played out. My point is, it's not Obama's fault that the government was shutting down before, even though that was the party in power. It was Republicans. That's what. Chuck Schumer should just be honest. I mean, if they're saying you're being a hypocrite, make the argument of why you don't think you're being a hypocrite. That's not really a reason of why you're not being a hypocrite. Your point is, no, they were reflexively against any and everything that Obama tried to pass. Whether it was good, bad, or indifferent, they were against it. They didn't care. It had nothing to do with policy. It had nothing to do with actual ideologies. Obama put it out, we're against it. Period. Understand, they had, on the day Obama was elected, they had a meeting. I think it was like Gingrich and a bunch of other Republicans. They made the choice, unyielding opposition to any and everything that Obama put forward. They did not want to give him any light whatsoever in regards to the wins. Their belief was, any wins will be attributed to the Obama and the Democratic Party, and that's the last thing they wanted to allow. That's the truth of the matter. So, there is a difference between Chuck Schumer making the case of saying, look, we're not going to pay all this money for $54 billion and you're not going to gut the government in that sense. One party was standing on a particular principle. Look, like or dislike Chuck Schumer, on this particular case, I agree with him. Cutting down the State Department, shutting down the Coast Guard, those things are insane. You should oppose those. If that means shutting down the government to oppose it, yes, you should do it. Not because you're playing politics, not because you're being hypocritical or anything else, but because it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. He is spending $54 billion on the military. We spend more on military than 9 governments combined, the majority of which are our allies. The biggest enemy, the one that Democrats keep saying is, you know, this all-powerful thing of sorts, Russia. They don't spend a fraction of what we spend on our military. Russia spends around the same amount as Saudi Arabia. That's not a lot of money compared to how much the United States spends. My point is, putting $54 billion into a sinking ship and then turn around and gutting services that are actually useful and needed for the operation of the United States government. If that's not a reason to shut down the government to stop, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. It's not like they're doing it for the other party was doing it of, we want tax cuts, so we're willing to default on the national debt. Certainly, there's a big difference between defaulting on the national debt because you want a tax cut as opposed to actually trying to preserve the function of the State Department, preserve the function of Planned Parenthood for that matter. I mean, granted, I know Planned Parenthood is not necessarily a government function, but certainly these things matter in the way that they actually affect people. They matter. They absolutely matter. If you need to have a certain amount of resistance of saying, yeah, we're not taking that extra step. If you need to shut the government down, then we're going to shut the government down. And we're going to make our argument. as to why we shut that government down, then that's what you do. That's the right thing to do. If that's what you earnestly believe, and you're going to stand on that principle, then that's the right thing to do. The problem is, you guys have blamed Russia for everything at this point. And instead of actually having a... Look, if you guys actually stood for something during the past 8 years, this will be easier to do. This will be easier to make your case. Anybody who's going to see this is just going to think you guys are playing politics. They're not necessarily going to fully understand the reasons and the justifications that you guys have for doing it. That's the case that you have to make. Part of the headwind that you're going to experience is from the last 8 years. I'm sorry. It is. It is. Politicians are known for being liars. And they're known for playing politics, as opposed to actually being earnest in the things that they're trying to advocate. You have actually found a legitimate issue. We do not want to destroy the U.S. government for the sake of giving these people extra tax cuts, or for the sake of injuring the Environmental Protection Agency, or injuring the IRS, which will make it difficult for the U.S. government to acquire funds and to watchdog these agencies, or the watchdog the people in these businesses. That's actually a worthy cause. That's actually a correct cause. What they say, a broken clock is right twice a day. But this is easy resistance in that sense. It's reflexive. It's easy. It's, holy shit, they're trying to gut the government. Yeah, we need to be against that. Yeah, they're right. Shutting down over the border wall is not a good enough reason, dude. I'm sorry, it's not. If Trump wants to waste money on the border wall, that is the least of the things that he can do in that office. If he's trying to gut all of these services in regards to the EPA, in regards to adding those immigrations officer and everything else, so the ICE raids, then yeah, you have a just reason to do that. And you need to make that case. You need to make the case. Because honestly, you don't necessarily have the power to stop him in the things that he's going to do. Your case is made in the sense of public will, except that you cannot stop his agenda. Your goal is to cast all of that agenda on him. Let him have it all. You guys should be unyielding in your opposition to any and everything that Trump puts out. Because everything that he puts out is going to be absolutely gross. Don't necessarily do it if he's doing something that's positive. But none of this stuff is positive. And at the very least, you can stand on a particular principle of, yeah, that's wrong. We don't like that. He's trying to essentially gut the government in order to give his cronies a tax cut. That's honest. That's an honest position. So, are the Democrats going to be strong enough to make it? Did the Democrats up to this point approve members of his cabinet? Are the Democrats going to approve Trump's Supreme Court pick after getting their own Supreme Court pick screwed over? That's the problem. That's the problem. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. It should be a foregone conclusion that in things that are an attack on the government itself, you should be unyielding in your opposition to it. I don't understand why that's not necessarily a foregone conclusion. Clearly it's not. You guys were talking about giving Trump the Supreme Court pick. So, who knows? Who knows? Look, I'll be honest. I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Are the Democrats going to fold? Are they going to grow a backbone? And look, to some degree, they have to grow a backbone if they want to have any level of opposition to Trump. I'm skeptical on whether or not they're going to do that. And hopefully, some of these corporate Democrats start getting taken out by progressives, in which case you may actually get a certain amount of resistance. You're not going to get it from these guys. At least nothing creative, and nothing that actually will be of substance. At least that's my prediction. I don't necessarily think you're going to get it. Alright guys, have a good night.